Ishkaman? Yeah? All right, let's start. And I tell you, it's so great to see all of you. I mean, that's really, it's a really incredibly beautiful feeling. And thank you all for coming. And I'll say welcome to Arts, Letters, and Numbers. As you know, as odd and different as it is, I do want to say that, and I want to also welcome you to the opening of SunShip, the arc that makes the flood possible. This is our exhibition in the CITYX Venice Italian Virtual Pavilion, and that's within the 17th Venice Architecture Biennale. And I'll tell you, it's really, to me, it's an incredible joy to be with you today as we initiate this this project together. You know, we have a really a remarkable group of people, many of which are here today, and I'm really thankful for that, coming together from all over the world to create different kinds of projects and programs, events, explorations, and over the next 6 months. I mean, this is a serious undertaking. Um, as many of you know, this is our 10th summer at Arts, Letters, and Numbers. And there's a number of things I want to try to share today as we start this project about where we are heading as an organization and as a community, and what we hope to do with this specific project, with this SunShip, in relation to that. So I want to start actually by backing up a bit and say a little bit about Arts, Letters, and Numbers as a project itself. So about 10 years ago, a really wonderful group of people, some of them are here today, from all over the world, gathered together up here at our campus in Averill Park, New York, which at the time was one building. It's a remarkable, giant, old mill building. And we came together and founded Arts, Letters, and Numbers. Now, we had come here for a 3-week workshop in what was really an old abandoned mill at the time, an incredibly beautiful building, but one that needed a ton of work. I mean, it had no water, you know, and we didn't have anywhere to sleep. So we used the local high school as our dorm. And we really just went crazy with work and life. And between sort of working on the building and really diving deep into our questions, you know, excavating sort of inner curiosities and inner voices, and then creating shared stories from them, right? Creating shared stories and works between us. There was an intensity that was born, a kind of creative intensity from what was happening, from what we literally were experiencing in all of the kind of incredible engagements. And this grew into, I would say, a sense of urgency, an urgency for what's possible when people come together. And there was this real sense that something special had happened. And we all felt this kind of urgency to create new spaces and new structures for people to come together and ask their questions and create their works. So it was really this kind of almost ineffable thing of spaces for conversation and exchange, and across a very wide range of ways of knowing, right? Exchange across many kinds of disciplines, different modes of expression, different modes of action. Now, we have evolved in many ways since that first summer. Our campus has grown to about half a dozen buildings. All of them have water. Most of them have heat. We can now house 30 or 40 people on the campus. And we're running many different kinds of year-round programs, both here in Averill Park and in collaboration with communities all over the world. Now, in all of that, one thing is for sure, that each year the intensity has grown, and the questions have grown, and the community has grown. And this sense of urgency has remained. It is a fire that keeps growing within us, between us. You know, I often say we're all beginners, and we're still beginners. We're interested in beginnings. Beginners interested in beginnings. So we're still running, and we're still running after what we don't know. And you know, actually, what I often say is that we don't have a lot of rules at Arts, Letters, and Numbers, but one of them is that if we know what's going to happen, we don't do it. And I mean that literally. I mean, who has time to do things that they know the outcome of? So, in many ways, Arts, Letters, and Numbers is an emergent institution. Two words that usually are not put near each other. And it's an emergent community. As we build this school, the school builds us, you see? And so our mission, and one of the real hopes, aspirations of Arts, Letters, and Numbers, is to create situations, to create circumstances that foster a giant diversity of voices, of ways of knowing, brought into direct proximity and interaction, right? You know, so of course, disciplinary diversity, right? We know a great deal about it. Anybody who knows this place, you know, knows we probably have 20, 30 disciplines at Arts, Letters, and Numbers in any given year. But more than that, cultural diversity as a diversity of ways of knowing, right? Age diversity, gender diversity, race diversity, social economic diversity. So Arts, Letters, and Numbers is a kind of microclimate of diverse voices, let's say. And what we're hope is that we're creating almost a kind of living system of transformation, right? That emerges through all of this interaction. Now, this of course involves a great deal of energy. Transformation requires energy and risk and a great deal of work and a great deal of honesty, just raw honesty and care. And so I want to take this moment to thank each of the members of our growing community from our very beginnings to now, not only for all of the thought and work and ideas that it takes to make Arts, Letters, and Numbers possible. It's always incredibly intense, but a lot has happened here in the last 10 years, and a lot of astonishing experiences, unforgettable moments. And so as this is the beginning of our 10th year, I really just wanted to thank everyone for that. You know, like most wonderful things in life, it's grown from conversations. Just as simple as that. People honestly sharing their hopes and dreams and imagined futures. How do we imagine our future? And working to build them. You know, this is the key, working to build that imagination into the world. You know, one of the really interesting things about this place, and I guess it has to do with this idea of an emergent organization or emergent institution, is that in each of our projects, each of them informs us as to what we're doing. Like, what is this project, Arts, Letters, and Numbers, right? It doesn't know. It's finding itself with each project. So we're all students. And in the arts of teaching and learning, the students are the curriculum, right? And the projects that we co-construct, right? These co-constructing projects that we go after, they're teaching us what the entire project of Arts, Letters, and Numbers is. So for the past 10 summers, whatever questions we were asking, whatever framework we set up for the project we were doing, was to really help us understand the emergence of the entire project of Arts, Letters, and Numbers. And so this project, this SunShip, the arc that makes the flood possible, is a crucial step. It's a crucial question in the imagined futures of Arts, Letters, and Numbers. And, you know, I started today speaking about our first summer workshop, and I think in many ways, this is a comparable situation. It's a comparable moment. And I'm talking about the birth of something unknown and unpredictable. So I want to share a bit about what we're hoping with this SunShip, and a little bit about how this project began. I want to start by sharing some of that. You know, as we all know, it's been an incredibly challenging, complex year, right? With all that has happened, with the pandemic and the multiple ruptures that it has set in motion, and of course, you know, with just the straight up insanity of our political ruptures, and all of the violence associated with that kind of power, and of course the global awakening of Black Lives Matter, and the real hopes that you know, this time will be different, that we can actually eclipse the violence of and the power of the systemic racism in all of its frightened forms. You know, this has been a year, and a tough year, filled with hope and despair. And I'm sure everyone here could share countless stories of how our lives have transformed in this year. I mean, it's really been a lot. So as recently as 3 months ago, I was looking towards this summer and thinking about what would be possible to do. You know, what could we do? I mean, it just seemed off that our 10th summer would be this kind of low density, quiet time at ALN. But that's what we were facing 3 months ago. And then I got a phone call from a dear friend, Ed Keller. He's here today. He's one of the creative directors of this year's Venice Biennale. And he invited me to be in it and to bring Arts, Letters, and Numbers to be an exhibitor in the 17th Venice Architectural Biennale, and specifically the Venice Italian Virtual Pavilion. Now, this is, of course, a big honor for me, for Arts, Letters, and Numbers, to be in the Venice Architectural Biennale. I mean, you know, it's a storied and, you know, truly important event in the history and cultures of architecture. I mean, in the communities around Cooper Union, where I grew up as a student and a teacher, you know, it was always a real subject of great intrigue, debate, discussion. So it's an incredible honor. But beyond the honor, really, the most interesting thing in this invitation is the difference between this Biennale and all the previous ones. Right? So Ed was explaining to me in real detail that this was a completely unique situation, that this Biennale was not limited to the exhibition of existing works, but that the curator, Tom Kovac, had a vision of this Biennale being about education, about community, being about creating new programs and new works, that this was an opportunity to create educational programs, projects, events over a 6-month period as part of the Venice Biennale. That's completely new, right? So, you know, lectures, and workshops, and panel discussions, and studios, seminars, all as part of the CITYX virtual pavilion. Now, that's completely new. And honestly, I say, if you'd asked me about, you know, online education 2 years ago, well, you would have had a very different answer than I do now. But the truth is, in the last year, I have seen and experienced remarkable moments in some of our online programs. We're bringing together people from all over the world who simply would otherwise never encounter each other. In our writing workshops led by Ginger Teppner, and a music workshop led by Michael Harrison that we did this year, we ran them totally online. And there were moments and works of ineffable beauty. And, you know, I always say, you know, when I'm pushed on what are the outcome assessment measures of ALN, you know, many of you have probably heard people who use that language. ineffable beauty. That's the outcome assessment measure. And it was happening. It was happening in these online programs. And the conversations towards a new social poetics, which we did, we had them for, I don't know, almost a year. These were deeply moving, really heartfelt exchanges. I mean, when you see a 16-year-old in the South Bronx meeting a 14-year-old in Bolivia or Nigeria for the first time in these conversations, you really do have to feel something about that this is something new. And to me, it felt and feels important to try to understand what this is and to try to understand its potential. You see, yes, you know, arts, letters, and numbers. Yes, fully embodied experience, the close physical proximity. These are crucial to our mission and our vision of education, and they will always be. But equally crucial is bringing into proximity and interaction a giant diversity of voices. And the possibilities of doing this are being greatly expanded in this time. I mean, look at this gathering. I would love it when we're all at the mill together. But in the meantime, this is pretty good. So as I was thinking about what Ed had described, something came into focus about the ruptures that we're living, about the hopes and despairs, about the global awakening that we all hope is growing. And I started to think about this microclimate of diverse voices, creating what we hope is a living system of transformation. And I had a pause moment. I just paused. And I could sense how this project, this invitation, could inform the entire project of Arts, Letters, and Numbers. It honestly felt like the brief period just before the first summer workshop. It feels like we're lighting a fire. And so one thing I want to do is thank Ed, because he really has set something in motion, and it really does mean the world to me in terms of where I think this could go. Now, I'm sharing all of this nuanced detail in this story because, as many of you know, I believe deeply in our personal stories, in our personal imaginations as a contribution to our shared stories and our shared spaces. And I think somehow this story and its links to the pandemic and the question of where do we go from here, which way is home, it may say something about where we're heading as a community. Okay, so feeling this pause moment and this urgency, I knew what I had to do next. I had to reach out to my three dear friends, my incredible wife, Sheila Mustafi, my dear friend, Homo Shojai, and my dear friend, Adrianos Ifimiadas. And it was beautiful because I shared with them what I thought was possible with this project. And I asked them if they would do this with me. And I also made it clear that I was not sure I could or would do it without them. And each of them immediately saw the possibilities, agreed to do the project full on. And it's been really remarkable and wonderful and beautiful since. We've been working with the kind of creative force every day since that, maybe 2 months ago, I can't remember. So I do just want to thank each of them from the bottom of my heart right now for the belief in this and their incredible precision and care in each step. And you know what? We're having a blast. That's the truth. And I also will say, as is obvious and will become more obvious, this is a giant undertaking. And to organize this, I mean, there's so many moving parts. And we are incredibly lucky to have Christine Laurence join our team as the communications manager. And I really want to thank Christine for all that you are doing, and you're doing it with great care and great precision. And I don't think we'd be here without you. So we had a team, and we immediately reached out to our broader Arts, Letters, and Numbers community all over the world. and invited them to be participants in this exhibition and to create new programs of all kinds. And the response has been so moving, I can't tell you. I mean, we have a truly remarkable group of people, well over 100 people from over 25 countries and dozens of disciplines who are coming together to create programs, projects, and events in the next 6 months. We have artists, architects, poets, musicians, filmmakers, scientists, writers, craftspeople, composers, actors, anthropologists, philosophers, physicists, theater directors, and more. And each of them, because they know and love arts, letters, and numbers, knows that they're being asked to bring their questions and to voice their visions. Right? So each will be creating programs and projects and works from their inner depth and curiosity. Now, many of you are here today, and of course, I really want to thank you for all these contributions. I know that we are all going to create magic together, and it is so moving that we're setting out to do this. We also are creating partnerships and collaborations with communities and organizations and institutions all over the world. And I'm going to just name a few of them to give a sort of spectrum of that, because this is part of this idea that this is a moment where things are possible that never were. So we're going to be collaborating with Big Picture Learning, with CAFA, the Central Academy of Fine Arts in Beijing, with the Centre de Design, UQAM in Montreal, the Cooper Union, Exploratorium in LA, with the Global Citizenship Experience Lab School in Chicago, with UNICEF, specifically in Ghana, with the United Nations Academic Impact, with Youth FX in Albany, and with College Unbound, which is a college of big picture learning. So look, I mean, this is an incredibly large outpouring of people and communities that'll be interacting in ways, I mean, across space and time, in ways that we've never been able to do before. And it's a lot. And bringing together all of these people and communities, I think it's fair to say that we're going for it, right? That we're responding to the opportunity of this Venice Biennale with all we have. And while, like everything else we do, we really don't know what will happen. We are doing this for a number of reasons. Right? And I want to try to share some of our hopes and aspirations for this project, for this SunShip. You know, I want to go back to the pandemic a second. When the first wave of the pandemic hit, I think we found ourselves in a new time and a new space. And the scale of the rupture, cut through all aspects of life. And this was, of course, destabilizing and disorienting, with real losses. And over time, living in that rupture, something slowly began to make sense, or something came into focus, something unnameable. And yet extraordinary was happening. There was a sense that this rupture, this cut, with all of its pain, also contained the seeds of a new world. It contained the hopes of a new social poetics, and maybe a new spatial politics. One where people can begin to co-construct communities, understandings, perceptions, and practices that respond to the depth of our global crises that long predated the pandemic, and create possibilities to actually transform the world. It's transforming all the time. The question is, how does it transform? And how can we contribute to that transformation? You see, many of the challenges we face, and I mean globally, they are too urgent for pre-existing forms of pragmatism to be our only response. There's just too much at stake to continue implementing the same answers to the same questions. You know, in the deepest sense, many of our current crises can be understood as crises of comprehension. And we often have no idea how to understand the transformations we're experiencing or what to do about them. And so if you think of that as a risk itself, right? If our risk lies in our capacity to comprehend transformation, then our best hope lies in expanding our capacities for comprehension, for understanding. And this speaks directly to our structures of education, to our spaces of education, as sites, as situations, sites of exploration, sites of transformation. And I believe it calls for a radical reimagination of the forms of interaction fostered within these spaces of education. So one of our primary hopes of this project is to broaden the spectrum of experiences that are understood as education. What's the nature of experience that is understood as education? Now, we're also moved by and completely cognizant that this is the Venice Architecture Biennale. And as such, it is a remarkable opportunity to engage the discipline and practice of architecture. Here too, there is too much at stake. Too much is possible to continue implementing the same answers to the same questions, to accept any domesticated expectations of our discipline, or any diminished forms of practice of architecture. Architecture is a fragile ground. As we construct spaces, they are constructing us. They contain us, they move through us, they embrace us. And these allow this kind of rolling motion of the human condition to work into our life spaces. Conversation, continuous reciprocity with space. And this does ultimately bind a kind of spatial contract, a kind of social contract that is spatial. So the poetic and spatial imagination, these are dimensions of human life. And I have believed for a very long time that in this sense, architecture is a life-sustaining discipline. It's an empathetic discipline. And it has a life of its own, but it is reciprocal to ours. It's in conversation with ours. And that's why when I talk about space, it's a participant in our thoughts and actions, right? And and there's this communicative exchanges with space, and they may speak in loud roaring howls, and they may speak in whispers, telling of our fragility and embodying with incredible nuance the spatial empathy of life itself. So this was to say that another one of our primary hopes, and maybe I'm even going to say primary objectives of this project, is to broaden the spatial imagination that is understood as architecture. The spaces necessary today require the pragmatics of the creative imagination, the pragmatics of the creative imagination, in search of previously unimagined approaches and actions, models of collaboration, models of practice. You see? Because, I mean, architecture is in the middle of it all. It's between it all. And the very tangible potential to transform our broken society, literally, and to elevate lives of incredibly vulnerable people among us. Architecture plays a role in this. And I think it creates an urgent call for new works, for new worlds to be born. And architecture and our spatial imagination could be crucial to this new world. I think sometimes, perhaps unbeknownst to itself, architecture is a mode of insurgency. It's a life-sustaining discipline. It's a spatial imagination that includes our nuanced fragilities in our shared stories and spaces. So SunShip, the ark that makes the flood possible. Remember, the ark is the last architecture before the flood and the first architecture after the flood. It's a hinge between two worlds. So now what if the arc is an arc in time? Arc as in a curve, slowing time, aligning it with lifetime. The flood, it wouldn't be a destructive event, but a place of life. And education is a transformative pursuit. Right? It is cohering and galvanizing all kinds of social contracts, all kinds of spatial contracts. So the education of an architect constitutes a double horizon, a SunShip, an arc that makes the flood possible. And if there is really one thing that I want to share with you today, perhaps the most important thing that I could share, is that there is more to come, and it will come from you, from your questions, from your voices, your creative urgencies, your movements. Because it is abundantly clear that the urgent need for social movements and for exploratory works of empathy and ethics are as present as they have ever been. And it is for all of us to find the stories and spaces of our time, to find the movements of our time, and to listen, literally to listen to the unheard voices, and to search for the unknown linkages, and to ask the questions that have not yet been imagined. This, I believe, is how we will create the transformations that embody our best hopes and aspirations. I often say that education is the reenactment of that which may not have happened yet. It's a very odd sentence. Education is the reenactment of that which may not have happened yet. This is SunShip, the arc that makes the flood possible. And SunShip is you. And we hope that you will join us with your full-on creative force, and that together we can find a new world. And so I really want to thank you all for being here. And I hope you will join us as we go on this journey in search of what's possible. And now I believe that Ed Keller is here, and I do want to ask him if he would like to say something, because I think it's a kind of a beautiful conversation over time.
Hi, David. Can you folks hear me with no crazy noise in the background? Cool. First, thank you, David, for such a beautiful overview of the arc. And, you know, I felt in reaching out to you that this, I hoped could be something really special for arts, letters, and numbers. And as you know, I've been racking my brain for a few years to try to figure out how I could connect in a good way, in a meaningful way, to ALN and you and all the people around you, your project. I see some friends from ALN. I see Zubin on the call. Hi, Sheila. Hi, Homa. Adrianos. ALN has been such an incredibly special experience for me, an honor to participate in it, and to meet everyone and to be able to teach a bit and do the workshops and performances. The energy there is just incredible and extraordinary. And I always come away thinking, like, how can more of these happen? Can I do something like this someday? It's really fantastic. So I just want to say thank you for both ALN and for the beautiful introduction just now. For everyone who hasn't met me, I am trained as an architect and as a composer. David and I know each other for, I think, maybe close to 20 years now. We've met at conferences years ago and on reviews, and at Cooper, I think at other schools. And then in 2010, I ran at the New School a lecture series, conference series on design and existential risk, which I invited David to speak at. because at that point, there were a few key themes that were concretizing for me around the relationship between the built environment, existential risk, and ways of thinking macro-historically. And this is all a little bit of backstory to give you context in relationship to what I believe Alessandro Mellis, the curator of the Italian Pavilion, and what Tom Kovac, the curator of the Italian Virtual Pavilion, are hoping for with this, as David has pointed out, like extraordinary opportunity. It really does feel incredible. Of course, I need to thank Tom Kovac and Alessandro Mellis for making this possible. I also have to, on a personal note, thank Tom triply over, because Tom and I met again at a conference, I believe 14 years ago. And he subsequently invited me to a bunch of different events, which I could or could not participate in. And then when he reached out back in November, it was really kind that he remembered me. And there's a very large group of creative directors. I think it's 22 of us from all around the world, different deans, heads of schools, program directors, folks who are running publications like Cynthia Davidson. And you can see from the group of people that Tom assembled, and he knew that the larger group of groups would be extraordinary, that they're hoping for something exactly like what David has talked about and what you're doing with ALN. They did say immediately to me that the exhibition would be lean and the events would be huge, right? And so this is again, David, as you pointed out, an extraordinary opportunity, because they're fully expecting each exhibitor, over 300, I think, to be organizing events. I don't think many of them will do it quite at the scale, David, that you and ALN and Sheila and Adrianos and Homa have done it. But there's going to be a lot of cross-fertilization, connection, amplification, agonistic encounter, and hopefully production of really, really lasting and planetary changing effect. You know, my hopes have been that this would be like what I tried to do when I was running CTM at the New School, the Center for Transformative Media. All of the events that I put together over 7 years were trying to merge artificial intelligence developers with philosophers, with people who were political theorists on both the left and the right side of the spectrum. You know, one of the events we did in 2016, Future of Mind, Ben Goertzel co-organized with me, the AI developer, and we brought folks like Nick Land and Mo Salemi, Reza Nagarstani, Patricia Reed, Pete Wolfendale together, with a huge crowd of people who had just attended the Human Level Artificial Intelligence conference that we hosted. My hope there was knowing that people like Ben Goertzel, who are developing the undergirding infrastructure potentially for both the best and the worst of smart cities, would come into contact with people like Reza or Patricia, and that there would be a spark that would travel in both directions. And so that's my hope. I mean, in very brief words, that's my hope for what happens this year with this group. When Tom reached out, he said, can you do something around space, you know, and planetary design? I said, well, this is fantastic, because I've been teaching post-planetary design for 8 years. And we just launched a post-planetary and universal design program with the New Center, which Carla Letau and I are directing. And so this is perfect. We can reach out to a range of people who either are working on design at the planetary scale or have thought design at both the planetary and universal and cosmological scale, and also the most intimate and local and fragile and human and organic and microscopic scale simultaneously. And so this was, you know, this is what I hoped. And of course I reached out essentially to the people who I was close to and who I knew were working at this level. And so there's a continuity here. You know, of course we look back to the Delos conferences or the Macy's or the Limits to Growth project, and we think, my goodness, you know, is it possible that something along those lines could emerge right now at this moment of rupture that David described? So necessary, an ongoing rupture. You know, I don't know if it's weird to invoke Lukács at this moment, but, you know, in theory of the novel, Lukács talks about the rupture of modernity. as this moment where any civilization at any moment in history develops the ability of some form of metacognition, maybe externally through media systems that it builds around itself, or maybe not only externally through media systems. And so I feel that there's been a slow-moving, ongoing singularity like rupture. It hasn't just been the past century or the past 2 centuries, but it's been as long as we've been able to grasp the world around us and reflect it back upon ourselves and reflect ourselves into that world, project ourselves into that world. So, you know, to speak to architecture, in the initial brief that they sent me, they gave a list of maybe 40 different disciplinary subjects that we could take on, we exhibitors in this extension of the Biennale. And it isn't, of course, just architecture. I mean, it runs the gamut from, generally speaking, resilience or biocomputation or adversarial networks to nanotechnology, smart cities, mobility, space technology, solar power, and so forth. It's a really, really broad aegis under which to operate. And again, everyone that is part of our group is working exactly in that space. And my notion of architecture, which would be in resonance, David, with yours and everyone around you, would be something like this. This is something that Carla and I said vis-a-vis the Postplanetary Universal Design Program, that architecture's conception of itself for centuries has depended on a model of the artificial relationship to the natural and the primal action in the wilderness. Do you build a hut or do you make a fire? And of course, as Fernandez Galeano has said quite astutely, if you burn the wood, you're still conducting an architectural act. It's a form of forgetting and a form of memory, just as much as the hut would have been. And there's a tension between the codex of preservation and the rituals of conflagration that we know also configures the very base of our life. Organic life, entropy, the flows of entropy and negative entropy are founded on those energy flows. The SunShip, David, that you talk about, reaches from the center of our planet to the center of our sun and back again. And those energy flows, you know, those energy flows are part of what we're talking about. And Carla and I had said, you know, perhaps a contemporary model might deploy an alternative to a dialectic, which would be either conservation or expenditure, and think of other natures, third natures, next natures. And architecture would simply be something that operates within that. I think, from what I have seen, I think that Alessandro Mellis's curation of the Italian Pavilion was very much thinking of that in relationship to the broader Biennale question, how will we live? How will we live? And the Italian Virtual Pavilion, as they themselves put it in the mission statement, is a response to the question of the broader Biennale theme, how will we live? And so this is how I approached the kind of mission. And again, we do have people who run the gamut. To just briefly summarize some of the folks who are in this group. Yeah. You, David, ALN, the Future Studies Program, which was founded by Jason Mahaga, brilliant transdisciplinary thinker, philosopher, writer. The New School Policy and Design for Outer Space Group, a group of graduate students, post-grad students at the New School, most of whom I met in my post-planetary design classes when I was teaching there, doing really extraordinary work themselves. Juliet Aranda, the co-founder of eFlux. In her project recently, over several years, she's been revisiting the work of Stanislav Lem, the science fiction writer. And most recently, she ran a series of seminars, which she invited a group of people to, which she called the Summa Technologia Project. And we all taught seminars around Lem, nominally the Summa Tech Project, but of course, for example, Carla and I looked very closely at his master's voice and at Solaris. Then we have Michael Morris and the CITYX group. They are award-winning space architecture designers, and they designed both houses for Mars, winning the NASA competition some years ago, and they're working on a lunar landing site project, which they featured in their exhibit for this project. Just as a side note, I also knew Michael's partner, Yoshiko Sato, for a number of years when she taught similar studios at Columbia University. And so Michael carries on her work in a way after Yoshiko passed.
Yep.
We also have Meta Design, Ezio Bozzetti and Daniel Willems, computational designers and professors at UPenn and other schools. Carla Leitel, my better half, my partner, my wife, she's showcasing some of the work that she's done at Crave Lab at Rensselaer, extraordinary architecture, design, and research seminars in the immersive room at Crave. We have Elliot Sharp, the noted composer and guitarist, and Janine Higgins, the video artist, collaborating together for this. We have David Hansen of Hansen Robotics, the well-known Sophia robot will be participating in this. Very, very interesting for me. Also, Ben Gertzel will be joining us later in the year, most likely through his OpenCog project, or perhaps the Sophia DAO project, which is just launching. It's kind of a distributed autonomous organization focusing on the Sophia robot. Fred Sharman, the architect and space historian, he recently published a beautiful book on space settlements. Rhett Russo, the architect and designer and faculty member at Rensselaer, whose work on ceramics is just extraordinary among his many other works, but his ceramic work is going to be featured here, and it's just phenomenal. And Chris Perry and Catherine Dwyer of Numa Studio, also faculty at RPI, and their work dealing with landscapes and distributed networks. So this is the kind of range of designers and thinkers that that I felt would maybe in a robust way answer the question, how do you put together a group that is thinking about space and planetary design? And of course, we can think of dozens of other teams and designers, but these are the people who are close and near and dear to my heart, and who I also know are doing really, really urgent work at this scale. So that's the kind of overview of a little bit of the backstory and how I felt it was necessary to respond to the challenge, and how it links back to a couple of key moments in the past decade for me: the Design and Existential Risk lecture series, which again David spoke at back in 2010, so more than a decade ago, and the post-planetary design questions and the planetology design studio questions that Carla Letao has been working on for almost a decade now too, that all dovetail precisely with the question, the overarching question of the Biennale: how will we live? And hopefully with what Alessandro and Tom have been aiming towards in their ambition for a response to that larger question. So again, just in closing, it's always been an incredible honor to be able to do stuff with ALN, with David and all the people that come together around Arts, Letters, and Numbers. I mean, I can't imagine how or where I could have done some of the workshops that we did in a few years ago, full day workshop, day and a half workshop with performances, and incredible engagement and response. And I know, David, that the in-person part has been crucial, and I always felt that when I first came to ALN, I felt like it was a mix of the best architecture, immersive design studio environment, combined with film production, combined with ongoing 3-week, 4-week, 5-week-long theater productions, recursively folding back upon themselves, with culinary experiments, and just an extraordinary kind of experience. And I know we're emerging from the pandemic, and you're hoping to get back to that. But again, I saw this as an opportunity which would be a kind of a jumping off, a springboard, and a catalyst moment to get us out of the pandemic and back into some of the normal operating modes that we aim for. But also maybe, as you put it, David, to open up some new forms, to rethink these kinds of boundaries of education. So again, just it's been an incredible honor to work with you and everyone around you. Thank you so much for that. Yeah.
No, thank you so much, Ed. I really appreciate everything you're saying, and hearing your hopes and what you've been wrestling with in terms of this opportunity. I mean, it is one of those moments, in a way, like the sort of binary dialectic between, like, the body and this experience, whatever word we want to put towards it. I actually think this rupture, this period, has transformed that. It's creating something that isn't as obvious. It's like if you zoomed with somebody, have you seen them, is a kind of paradoxical, enigmatic question relative to us being a body and us having a body. And so I really felt like there was this thing where I was like, yeah, no doubt, the body that we are bodies, right, is deeply rooted in ALN's footings and mission. But when you realize, what we're heading towards now with this SunShip, I mean, we're going to be bringing together hundreds, if not more, people who would never, ever, ever be together. And almost certainly it would, the challenges of them coming to Averill Park. I mean, when we're going to bring kids from Ghana to kids from Western China to kids from the South Bronx and Newark, they're not going to get up here to Averill Park, you know, that easily, right? Inshallah, someday in the future. But being able to have them meet, say hi, chat, you know, this is a piece of our mission that I don't want to underestimate as it's burgeoning, you know. And when you were talking about the rupture and the crisis and the transformation, you know, these moments, I have to share with you, it's one of my favorite things that my dear friend Farid Moslahi, who was a founding board member of Arts, Letters, and Numbers, said. It's an incredibly short sentence he said to me, literally said it to me. Like it's not like he was writing a book or anything. He just said this, you know, that in moments of existential crisis, time has a tendency to collapse. Whole chains of events that may usually require years and decades to unfold suddenly happen overnight. I mean, it's incredible. And I really feel like we're in that, like we're in one of them. And that's why, you know, I sort of woke up and said, hey, you know, we got to run after this. You know, we got to run after, even we don't know. We got to run after what we don't know, as I always say. And so here we are. And thank you, Ed. It really was a great spark that you gave us up here. And listen, I know there are a lot of great friends here, and that many of which are going to be creating programs in this SunShip. And I just want to reach out. I can only see like 4 people at a time right now, so I'm sorry I can't. But I just want to say, please, if I would love to hear from you. If anybody would want to share what they're thinking, whether in any way, whatever you'd like to offer. Oh, I go to gallery view. Huh, okay. Now I see lots of people. Would anybody like to share anything of what they're thinking of doing as a program, or any other thought they have?
Well, I could start, David.
Thank you, Louise.
Just to let me ask. Okay. Alberto had to turn off his mic because otherwise there's echo. Sorry.
Great to see you.
Yes, it's great to see you. It's been a while, and I can see the sun shining behind you, and I miss that place so much. I wish I could be with you. We had a wonderful time last time I was down there, and I see some very nice faces, Zubin and Lisa. We were together not so long ago, and so I'm very happy to be there with you, and I'm very grateful for the invitation to join the project. In fact, when you sent me the invitation, David, it just so happened that we were working on this, well, I call it an exhibition, but it was more of a lab or an experiment at the Design Center here in Montreal. Because of course, like all of you, we were in a situation where we didn't know what would happen with the pandemic and the constraint of not allowing people on site and all that. So a few months ago, I told my team of curator, and I can see their name on the screen. Their cameras are off, but I see Amandine waving, a colleague from the School of Design, and Magali is there, Magali Houl, and Katarina was there as well, but she may be on the second page, sorry. So I gave them the challenge to think of an exhibition. The topic of the exhibition has to do with screen, the omnipresence of screen. And that's also why when you sent me the invitation, I immediately thought that it was probably the perfect context to address the wider issue, the big question of the Biennale this year: how will we live together? And for the past year, almost year and a half, we've been living together. Like now I see you as a gallery on my screen and you're all there through the screen. And of course, it poses all sorts of challenges and constraints. And it's exasperating to spend hours and hours. I spend my days connected through the screen. But then on the other hand, it's an amazing way to get together with people that we wouldn't see otherwise, you know, like people from all over the world. So it raises all sorts of challenges, and the exhibition from the beginning was going to address this issue of screen. And we started working on that 2 years ago when Katarina and Magali came to me and suggested an exhibition that would deal with a collection of photographs by Jean Baudrillard, this French philosopher, who very eloquently wrote about the screens and how screens were transforming our relationship to reality. And so we started working on this project 2 years ago, but then with the pandemic, I suggested that we think of a context where the exhibition may not even happen. So what would we do with an exhibition where we cannot let people in? So in itself, it became an interesting challenge, you know, to think of an exhibition that could potentially be entirely mediated through the screen. And so that's a project that will be presenting in the context of ALN, this exhibition that is basically, in the end, we're allowed to let a restricted number of people inside of the exhibition room, but the exhibition itself has been mediated through this kind of simulacrum, you know, where every piece is presented in some kind of idealized format. The physical exhibition is also available, and we've imagined in this potential context of being restricted or not being allowed to open the exhibition room, there's a part of it that can be seen from the outside. So where the windows of the design center become another mediating screen. So we're trying to present all that in a mediated form on a website that has been created specifically for the exhibition, for the exhibition, and a page for the Biennale. And so I saw this morning that it's finally up and running. So I invite all of you to come and look at it and see some of the pieces. And we'll have curator and artist talk on the 18th of June with Penelope Umbrico, who's a wonderful artist, working with screen, but making the materiality of the screen this thing that we see through, but we never look at the physical object. She makes the materiality of the screen evident. And there's a whole reflection on what is the screen and how we react to it, we interrelate to it. So that's basically what we're doing. I don't know if my colleague want to add anything, but in a nutshell, that's what we've been working on for the past 2 years. And it's a great opportunity to be able to share it with friends and with the wider public. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Louise. Really, really appreciate that. And we're looking forward to the panel on the 18th.
Yes.
Hey, Dave, do you want me to say a couple things about the workshop?
Please, yes. Thank you, Ginger.
You're so welcome. Thank you. Basically, Andrew Helton and I are working on an extension of what I started last summer. And we've talked a lot about how in this time of rupture, listening has become almost a revolutionary act to listen. And obviously, in terms of poetry or being a writer, listening is very, very important. So we've tried to construct a virtual space that is a safe, non-judgmental space where we focus really intently on listening in terms of trying to really understand what the participants are attempting to do with their work. And ideally, that environment allows them to work outside of maybe their normal boundaries and feel safe to take some risks with their work that they otherwise might not do. So, I mean, that's really what we're trying to accomplish in the virtual space. Obviously, it's much easier in a in-person environment. So we've been really happy to see how you can still make that connection online. So that's, pretty much, it's a 6-week course that's going to start at the end of June, I believe, with selected readings and a lot of listening critiques and sharing of new work. That's pretty much it.
And it's called The Earth of?
Yes, Ruptures and Reckonings.
Nice. Thank you so much, Ginger.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'd be happy to speak a little bit about the music programming we're doing through Arts, Letters, and Numbers and the Biennale. So we've been having incredible music programs at ALN over the last 4 or 5 years. And last year we had a whole 2-week program lined up, and we had to change it at the last minute because of the pandemic. So we did a virtual program, and it ended up being really incredibly deep and successful program, which really, I think, surprised all of us. To the point where we had composers from all over the world creating new works and collaborating with performers, and put on, at the end of the 2-week program, a 3 or 4 hour marathon concert of all the works that were created during the program. So this year, we're going to do the same thing and do it online. And we have probably the most incredible faculty lined up that we've ever had, including Terry Riley, Del Sol String Quartet, Raiko Fuding, an incredible German composer, Vadim Neslevsky, he's a jazz composer and pianist, has worked in the Gary Burton's quartet for the last 10 years. Daisy Press, amazing vocalist. Peyton McDonald, who's a composer, percussionist, and Drupad vocalist. And our own David Gersten, who will do a couple special programs with us. So just really excited to be launching this. It's going to be August 16th through the 29th with a marathon concert happening on August 28th. Also, my new album, 7 Sacred Names, which is based on 7 of the 99 names of God that comes down through the Sufi tradition, is going to be launched on June 18th, and we're having an album release event through ALN and the Venice Biennale on June 30th. It'll be moderated by John Schaefer, who's the host of New Sounds, and we'll have some special guests, including the astrophysicist and Sufi mystic Surwardi Gebel, because the whole album is based on his book Nature's Hidden Dimension. and we'll be joined by violinist Tim Fain and cellist Ashley Bathgate. So that's happening. Also, all of the faculty in the Creative Music Online program will be offering their own events. So we'll be having concerts and lectures and seminars offered by the various faculty. And then I'll also be teaching an Indian ragas class starting in September, which is I've been doing ongoing throughout the year through ALN. So we'll have that through the Biennale. So just really excited to be going deep with these music programs. And of course, I've learned so much over the years coming to ALN and taking part in all of the amazing things happening there. And so we take this sense of creative urgency that you find at ALN and bring it into all of the music programs.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael. The music and the tone and the vibrations that you bring to ALN, honestly, they levitate me. They levitate me. And they keep me straight too. Like I feel like I've been fixed every time I'm with your sound.
I could say a couple words, David.
Hey, thank you. Yeah.
Michael, I think we were roommates at the ALN years ago, 2013, 14.
Yeah, I remember very well. That was a fantastic experience, right in the lake house.
Yeah, that's right. And you turned me on to agave, this natural sweetener, which I still use and I can find in certain places in Winnipeg. So thank you for that. So, you know, in the spirit of chasing after what we don't know, the specific programming that I'm contributing is in gestation, but part of it entails digging into the arc of the architect, the arche, in the sense of beginning and inaugurating and initiating, setting things into motion. And one of the things that we're setting into motion is something that's already partially underway. And that is a theme involving theaters of architectural imagination. And like everyone, one of the things that I had underway pre-pandemic was a symposium on architecture and theater. And that was turned into an online venue, which only just happened last weekend. Which is part of my excuse for being delayed in the specific programming, you know. But part of that, interestingly, we also had an intermission theme with the symposium, and we referred to them as entr'actes, the instance in between, the performance that happens in between the other main performances. And for the actual symposium that we had envisioned originally, these were going to be live, interactive episodes in between the academic paper sessions. And this was converted into a video format. So it's an exhibition of 2-minute videos, which, thank you, Louise, are supported by the UCOM Design Center. And the exhibit is there. So I'm continuing to work with some students at the University of Manitoba. I think a couple of them are on the call here, to elaborate these entr'actes with various themes, including themes of puppetry, music, landscape, cultural diversity, and stories of the earth and the land, stories that are underfoot. If Louise, if you're thinking about the screen and the sort of horizontal surface, I think I'm going more, or you're thinking of the vertical surface, I'm going more horizontal. And Winnipeg being in the prairies, thinking about the earth that is underfoot, how we draw things up from the earth, and including stories, and those include stories of trauma. And Canada is dealing with some stories of trauma being uncovered from the earth beneath our feet right now, but also the land as a kind of reservoir, not of fuel extraction, but of stories of the land, the voices of the land that speak to us, and how this is drawn up. And I'm pulling on some of my own sort of scholarly research, which I collaborate with Alberto on, with stories of Greek tragedy and Greek drama, and the chorus as a place to pull up stories and also peace. Maybe part of what our planet needs a lot more of now, and it might be underfoot if we can recognize it and scratch the surface, dig down deep, that sort of thing. Stay tuned, and it's a real pleasure to be involved, and thank you very much, David.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I'm really looking forward to what you're going to unearth.
Hey,
Hey, Zubin.
hey, hi everyone. Maybe yeah, at the end, but Lisa,
No, share now.
at least I didn't know the intermission part. That's kind of funny. So my contribution, I guess, is some of you maybe got emails about this. I hope we can. I hope, you know, if not today, if you've got to jump off, but I think it would be really lovely if, as many of you, you know, can, if we retire to the intermission, you'll get the link. But it's essentially, I thought about, like, what do I do at ALN? One of the things I do is I build a bar, pretty much all you know, different space for the in-between, you know. That's one of the things I like to do. And so that's kind of what I did and what I'm doing. So for the next 6 months, there's a space that we can come to. And I kind of don't want to talk too much about it. So if you haven't had a chance to visit, Thursdays, and we'll work something out too for Europeans and time zones and stuff like that, but Thursday evenings. But it's also a space I would love for as many of you, you know, to just check it out, because like it can be a venue. It's like it's a potential venue, and I think you'll see what I mean when you do it.
I've been, and it's really cool. I had a great time.
And yeah, and I hope after this, like, because we can also keep doing this. It's just it'll be different. But yeah, anyway, that's all.
So can I ask, did we put the link in the chat? Okay, so then whenever we end, whoever wants to go to the after party just clicks that link and figures it out. Is that fair to say, Zoom?
Yeah, I mean, there's only a couple things. Sometimes like Zoom and the browsers get greedy, so you might have to rejig and restart. And then the only other thing is really you have to use Chrome or Firefox when you click that link, and then, you know, you'll see how it works afterwards. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Zoom.
Thank you. This is also so incredible seeing all of your faces. It's really wonderful. And yeah, and the first part of the intermission is ALN, which you'll see. Anyway, yeah.
David, may I just say how honored I am to be included here as well? I will be basically lecturing on questions of atmosphere, but I think we're plotting, I hope this pans out, a good substantial conversation on questions of education, which has been my passion all my life. You know how much I share with you from our adventures at Cooper and our many conversations. As you probably know, I was the director of a school many years ago in Canada, in Carleton, and I tested this model of bringing humanities-based education together with very much hands-on discovery through making a position that, of course, I learned from John Haydock and some of the colleagues at Cooper, and we had some really amazing results. I think this is unfortunately a position of resistance that has not received the presence that it deserves in architectural education. I've tried all my life to make things like this happen, and it's always been problematic. You know, the profession is very much obsessed with its capitalistic debts and its instrumental obsessions, but I think I would like to be as optimistic as many of you, and that's why I'm delighted to be here. I hope we are really the beginning of something. Though I have to say that as a historian, I have a kind of historian's view of things, and it's been a long struggle. It has long roots. We are not really the first to try to bring architecture back to its center, and it's been very hard. But I hope we can truly do better, and I'm certainly very happy to be part of your team.
Oh, Alberto, I'm so moved that you're here and that you're going to be doing this. We are fellow travelers, and we've fought in the same kind of trenches for a very long time, and I treasure our friendship. And I'm going to say I've learned so much from you. You can't believe. I feel an incredible. Your thought, your writing, and your friendship and conversations have made me who I am. I mean, they've transformed me since a very young age, and of course I grew up with John Hayduck, and obviously, I'm sure one of the very few people that he always talked about was Alberto up in Canada. He was always referred to Alberto in Canada, and so I learned, John's the impact you had on him was huge, and so you can imagine, growing up in that, like being a young teacher and all of that. When I started digging in, it was so obvious why. I mean, I was like, wow. I mean, this is the real depth, and I've treasured our friendship for decades. And to me, you're right. It's a battle that won't stop. To ethics, poetics, the humanities, they are space. They are the structure of space. I always say, Alberto, I'm a pragmatist, meaning a poet. And I think we are doing the good work of trying to remind architecture that it isn't just an appeasement of capital process here. We have a responsibility to the life itself, and that comes from the humanities.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, David.
Oh, it's great. We're going to do great things in this and beyond. And yeah, we'll figure out a nice panel discussion, conversation, something, because education, man, it needs all the depth and voice we can bring to it.
Hi, David. Hi. It's Marc.
Oh, hi, Marc. How are you?
Nice to see you. Nice to see all the people. I want to say some few words because since our last encounter in New York, because I was involved in some research regarding John Hayduck, and also because I live in Paris, I was digging about his exhibition that he did at Villa La Roche. And now I really enjoyed our talks together, and I also feel when you talk and your presentation is that I'm very, very happy to be part of this program, as I am surrounded with people. I understand the language, and I feel very confident and warmly. I'm very happy to be surrounded by you and by your team. And I just took the opportunity to do something maybe a bit provocative regarding my work, because with this virtual pavilion, I got very obsessed with blockchain recently, the blockchain technology. And as I'm making architecture by myself, I build by myself small experiment architectural sculptures and scale 1 that I do in a backyard, in exhibitions or sculpture parks. I was thinking how to move in this virtual world, or how to move my work in a coherent way in this virtual paradigm. And I think blockchain was a kind of very interesting technology because for me to think about, because I think there is an analogous relationship with architecture, because since blockchain has creating blocks that you cannot change, and that it cannot hack, and so that means that there is a kind of analogous link with the architecture, and NFTs technology is also a big boom at the moment, but there is a lot of things that we can do with NFTs technology, and we can program and we can inject a code in the NFT, and then we can make the NFT evolutive, and we can give them properties. So we can give to a brick that is an NFT a property that could be a base, a foundation, a wall, a roof. So I was thinking about all those things. So the work I've done is a small video where we see 3 films that I did. It's me constructing, building things. One in Villa Medici in Rome, one is in an art biennale in Tallinn, and another one in a fair in Brussels. And I took some relics, some parts of these works like that has been destroyed now, like some leftovers. I 3D scanned them, and with these scans, I rebuilt a new architectural vocabulary from scratch with these 3Ds. And I put them on the blockchain, and then it means that now they are objects that you can own actually. So for the Biennale, it's NFTs, but they are for free. I wanted to make, of course, no profit of it. It's just to promote this idea. And then also it's on an ecological blockchain, which is a new protocol, which is called Tezos. And so the idea is that through this Biennale to build a virtual architectural vocabulary from leftovers of physical buildings that existed before, and then with you, and then to make a vocabulary, and then maybe to reprint it in the reality. So NFT or blockchain could be just like a medium, like how I consider it like a new clay or something, like a new medium. And then I'm very happy to launch these ideas, and I wrote a manifesto that would be available on the website to explain a bit the relationship between what I think about blockchain and architecture. So thank you again for this invitation. I'm very glad that I could launch this, and then maybe to build this table of elements with ALNN, and then at the end of November, maybe we will have a whole building built virtually. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Marc. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll make a mill in the blockchain.
David, can I just jump in for 1 second?
Yeah.
Just very briefly, just for 30 seconds. Hey, Marc, it's really nice to meet you, and I'm sorry we didn't connect a few weeks ago before, but there was a crazy bunch of behind the scenes stuff going on. I just wanted to say that we should, if it makes sense to you, take a look at what Ben Goertzel is doing with his Singularity Net project, with OpenCog, and with the Sophia DAO that they're launching later this year, because Ben is going to be closely involved with some of the programs we do in the summer and the fall, and he will potentially co-sponsor the Cosmopolitics conference we're going to run in November. But one of the behind the scenes things that we want to try to do with Ben is find out if there are angles that all of the groups in our track can connect to vis-a-vis some of the blockchain development that he's working on, both with Ethereum and with Cardano. So there's a potential for an interesting conversation and collaboration there, I think, with some of the people in our group and across the entire space and planetary design cluster. Okay, so let's just be in touch about that. And that's also something that I extend to everybody in the ALN group. We're talking to both Ben Goertzel and also to Juan Azule, the architect, filmmaker, and technology developer. Juan launched a project called Reality Code a couple of years ago, which is also a Ethereum-based blockchain and more recently NFT platform. Juan launched it specifically to offer a range of different opportunities for intellectual property, both protection and also advancement to designers, architects, filmmakers, etc., musicians, because he works with very large number of filmmakers and musicians. And he thinks that it could be an interesting platform for us this year. So as I learn more about what opportunities there are, I will float them back to David and to everyone in our cluster, and we can propagate that out to see if any good collaborations or sponsorships can emerge. Okay, thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Ed.
Thank you.
That's great.
Hi, David. I just wanted to say hi. Tristan Duke here. We've never met in person, but just wanted to say hello. Unfortunately, I missed the main body of the program here, so I'm hoping this recording will be posted somewhere that I could catch that. But I've just really been enjoying hearing all the different participants talking about these projects. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of all this.
Great, thanks so much, Tristan. Yes, first of all, I love your son that you built with a million holes. Seriously, I mean, like I think about it like on regular basis, you know, like because I love the fact just the whole thing about it, the whole thing that actually is an occurrence, that it happens. If you do that, that will happen. It's just incredible. But also, yes, this is I believe it's like YouTube Live, and I think it's either on maybe the Venice YouTube channel, or
Great.
Oh wait, there's something in the chat. Let me just see. I want to get it right. Yeah, it's going to be on streaming platforms. We'll get it. We'll send an email out. It may be YouTube, our YouTube channel, or Venice's. I don't remember, but it's definitely recorded. So look forward to seeing you. And we have an event coming up with you relatively soon.
July 15th. Yeah, we'll be at the Exploratorium. I'll be live at the Exploratorium with hopefully with an in-person audience. We're trying to figure all that out, but I'll be in conversation virtually with Lawrence Weschler. So it'll be kind of a hybrid event with people able to attend online, with people attending live, and it'll be kind of a grand reopening for the installation that you were referring to that I have at the Exploratorium there in San Francisco. So we'll be touching on a lot of things, including kind of psychological sculpture and some of my research around looking at the Jeremy Bentham's panopticon as a holographic optical element, actually. So it should be a fun discussion.
We did a project once called Zoetrope Sun. You could think of the panopticon as a zoetrope.
Absolutely.
Nice. Super cool. Great to meet you, Tristan.
Yeah, likewise.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited that this is happening, that everyone is here, and that everyone is sharing. I wanted to just take a step back. You know, we've been working tirelessly with David and Sheila and Homa and Christine, and we will continue to do so. I want to thank you, David. Thank you, Ed, for inviting us. Thank you, Homa and Sheila. You know, I always say that I've been blessed to be purified and empowered and anointed in the sublime waters of female energy by being gifted with my incredible mother, who's somewhere around here, and then two additional ones who I'm so very proud of to be working with, Homa and Sheila. And on a very personal note, I have to say I'm not only ecstatic to be working with our over 100 participants, but to be also reintroducing myself to the kind of flood and the waters of friendship and of love. And that was brought up several times. And you know, there's many phenomenal projects involved in this 6-month arc, but for me, after a while, after we started working on this, it became rather apparent that what we were involved in was something other, or something more than just programs. We were and we still are in many different ways involved and submerged into the waters of a spiritual friendship that presents itself really as a kind of invisible location that David spoke about when referencing Zoom, a kind of mystical city, and also a meeting place of strangers and of friends. And that really all comes alive through this medium, this medium of artistic sympathy, of creative purpose, and really through the medium of love. And what is decisive for friendship is that it kind of constitutes a spiritual phenomena which can be traced back either to a kind of conscience or a kind of religiosity or a kind of architecture, an architecture that's built upon love. And I know Alberto left, but anyway, I think the kind of concretization of this friendship amongst all of us, of any friendship, takes on an existential status, as Ed pointed out, an existential status for their existence. And it penetrates and has penetrated into my life as the kind of purest form and reality of the soul. A friendship that is love as unlimited devotion. So I don't have a program to share, but I have my devotion to share to all of you that are in this meeting today. Not just our team, but also everyone that has joined and that hasn't joined today. And it was my time to give unto Caesar what Caesar is due. And by Caesar, I mean David. And by Caesar, I mean Homa and Sheila and Christine and all of you. And by Caesar, I also mean SunShip. And so friendship, love, and SunShip.
Merci. Ediano. That was Farsi, just so you know, not French. Merci. Adrian, it's incredible what you've done. I'm gonna say, a number of years ago, I did it was an exhibition that I was in, and then I did a talk called, it was in Copenhagen. It was called On Drawing and Friendship, Drawing on Friendship. And I have to say, we have a blast. I mean, we're on Zoom nonstop, both Adrianos and I, and then the 4 of us, and then the 5 of us, we're constantly on Zoom. And we're having a blast. And I said to Sheila this morning, I said, in addition, we're building so many things with this project, this SunShip, this art that makes it possible, and you can guess I really shortened what I could say about time and the sun and my son and DNA and the arc that makes the flood possible. There's a lot there, but one of the things we're building is this great time we get to have. I mean that, I'm pragmatic, I wanna laugh my head off as much as possible, and I tell you, with this crew, I do, and we all do. It's like where do you see the videos of all of us singing, the ship song of Nick Cave? We did a whole music video to the ship song the other night because we just felt like it, and so I'm in love as well. And I'm gonna say, you see that film, man, you watch that film. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And Adrianos really just took that on. I mean, he drove that one hard. And of course, the 3 of us were tough critics, no doubt. But but he found the light in that film. I mean, he really did. He found something that I've never seen before, and I love that film. And I knew once we nailed that film, I knew we were, heading somewhere. We keep the spirit of that. We maintain the shattered ground that keeps rebuilding and rebuilding, and then shattering, and then rebuilding, and then shattering, and then rebuilding. And it's life. I mean, it felt to me like what goes on inside of us. That film, it feels really like the body, like my body. So thank you so much, Adrianus, for everything you're doing. I got to say that. Does anybody else want to share something? And if otherwise, we can go to the after party, but I certainly would, if anybody wants to share something, I'd love to hear that.
David, can you hear me? This is Ira.
Ira.
Frozen.
Yes.
Hi, there you are. Okay. So first of all, it's a pleasure to be here with everyone, and I love your creative team of Sheila, Hama, and Adrianus. I can see the energy flowing out from that. So it's a pleasure to be with you all. And I love the sense of the SunShip arc, holding the before and the after. So one of the things that just came to mind, which I'd love to explore with you more afterwards, is working with Youth FX and NCBI together, connecting the youth who are being touched by this program across different continents around what is the, really opening up diversity, and also me thinking about what do we need to do to replace replace fear with acceptance around diversity. So anyway, just some thoughts to explore with you later. So
absolutely, Ira, it's coming, man. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. It's absolutely coming. As you know, I asked you and Bowen, and Bowen, very happy. Bowen's the founder of Youth FX, incredible program in downtown Albany. They teach filmmaking, 500-600 students a year. They teach it in the hood, they teach it in the projects, they teach it in my old high school. They teach it across a lot of different places there. And we've collaborated with them for a very long time, had them out here, made films here. It's been amazing. And so in that big Voices of Global Youth program that I didn't even describe, but with the UN and UNICEF and Youth FX, a big picture, we're going to bring together a bunch of different organizations and kids from all over the world. That's the idea. And there's absolutely kids from downtown Albany, you bet.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Ira.
Okay.
Actually, I see Elliot. I didn't see that he was here. Elliot, you wanted to say something or no?
I don't know if I should say. I've been in and out because I've had calls.
Yeah.
So I'm a little disconnected from the flow. So I'm hanging back, but nice to be here. Good to see you, David. Yeah, no, I mean, the youth piece that Ira, I believe, just mentioned is something that we do all the time. We're student driven, and we really do mean that. Voice and action, or action and voice. And so we have a lot of things to share. I mean, I can bring up right away BP Living and a website, social media presence, and app that young people developed collaboratively from all over the world, from our schools. And that's getting to the next level right now around a partnership that we had with the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, who work around 6 measures that schools are not very good at and actually cause a lot of harm around exercise, sleep, eating well, going to a plant-based diet, and lowering sugar, fat, and salt, and having healthy relationships and avoiding harmful substances. So our youth and students from our schools have gotten together and put together quite amazing work around this. And the latest thing they've done is about to send a video letter to Dr. Fauci, who talks about pre-existing conditions of COVID and how they impact Black and brown communities in higher percentages, but doesn't talk about the fact that they can be prevented. and diabetes, heart disease through exercise, what you eat, how you sleep, how you deal with your stress and relationships. And why is the question there. I'm more of a how person, but that's a why question. And there's a real reason why he doesn't, because he's so narrowly focused and not on the holistic nature of this work and its politics. So our students are out there questioning that. That's the example of the kind of work that we're doing, that we're going to bring to this work coming forward in the summertime. And we're lucky we have a school in Biella, which is about a 3-4 hour train ride from Venice, and they'll have a presence there face to face as well. So we're looking forward to everything that's going on, and that's why I joined intermittently. I had a bunch of calls.
Yeah, but thanks so
sorry
much,
about
Elliot.
that.
Thank you so much for coming. I think it's going to be great. Elliot's the co-founder of Big Picture Learning, one of the best organizations on earth. I'm deeply moved by the work they've done for decades, and I'm super lucky to be on their board, mostly because I get to learn so much from everything they're doing, and I also get to hang out with Elliot a lot, and also just it's so moving. I mean, 200 schools around the world in the toughest neighborhoods on earth, and they're changing not just the school and the students, but they're changing the whole neighborhood. They're changing the whole community. Everything around Big Picture gets elevated because the students are the curriculum and the neighborhood's the school, and it changes lives. And so it's great friendship I have with Elliot, and we're gonna, as I just mentioned, we're gonna do a program that brings together a bunch of different organizations, maybe 4, 5, 6 around the world. And Big Picture is obviously going to be right in the middle of that one. So thanks for coming, Elliot.
No problem. Wish I could have stayed longer, but I had a bunch of calls.
Nah, no worries, man. All right. So any last things? Because I know people are starting to have to jump off.
I would really love, we can continue this in the intermission. I really would love, before you leave, Ed, like and sorry to be a little, if all of us could just go there quickly, because this can keep on happening, but it's slightly different,
Sure. Kali, did you want to say something, Khalil?
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts running around, but I wanted a quick point of clarification. You made a equivocation for the arc being an arc in time, and the flood being either a space or a place, and the act of transformation. I wanted to hear you state again how you thought about the sun arc and how you thought about the flood.
Yeah, I'll do it. I will, and I'll try to be succinct. There was a moment years ago where I was near the top half of one of my big drawings, and I started to become a school. I didn't, like I drew lifetime, like improvisation, right? Those drawings don't look improv, they are. And as I was going higher, I started thinking about a place to teach drawing. I started thinking about the void and engaging the void and the abyss. And I started thinking about the library and books and language and making and craft and a foundry and all these things. And I was drawing them and writing stories and writing stories. And eventually I realized that all of that top half had become a school. And in the middle of that, I had this epiphany about the arc. And so I ended up calling that whole part of the drawing, the arc that makes the flood possible, a school. Now, when we got here, I said, SunShip, the arc makes possible. What is it wrestling with is that a flood is a destructive event, primarily because it happens all at once, right? So if you think of the arc as if it was an arc in time, it was a curve that slowed time down, then the flood becomes like the ocean. And it's a place full of life. So it's about duration in a way. It's about being able to find the right duration and frequency within which life can emerge, rather than become a violent force, transformation I'm talking about, being a violent force that destroys, right? Transformation can be a place that amplifies the nuanced differences of life itself. That's what I mean by the arc that makes the flood possible, and that's what I mean by the SunShip, the arc that makes the flood.
It's funny to think of you describing it as a hinge, just because I think of a broken hinge in biblical history, which is Babel. You know, you described the ark as the last architecture before the flood, the first architecture after the flood. The ark being the divinely ordained structure, Babel being the unordained structure. And it's funny to me to think that the sound of rushing water is to Babel, and that the destruction of that unordained structure is never specified in the story, but it could have just as easily have been a flood. And it's funny to think about that in relation to, I think it was Louise, in describing Baudrillard and the kind of immediacy of images and screens. You know, all of you know, him and Jameson and these theorists were discussing the relationship between language and schizophrenia. You know, the failure to accede fully to the realm of language, and the arc being this kind of potential antidote about how much hope is expressed in Rupture when we were beginning our chats, you know, some time ago, and how Rupture, you know, up until Rupture, as far as I've been reading, has been associated with schizophrenia and hopelessness in a sense. And so, you know, it's promising to think for me the antidote to Babel could be the arc. And so it's fun to hear about your equivocation, your recontextualization to that.
Thank you so much, Khalil. I really appreciate that. All right, well, listen, everyone. It's been fantastic. This actually was a beautiful beginning, exceeded my sense of what we could do. And I really am looking forward to what we're going to do together in the next 6 months and beyond. You know, I'll tell you something. One of the unique differences of this Biennale and all the others, there's lots. You know, when the closing ceremony happens, we get to keep the pavilion. You know what I'm saying? We ain't closing. This is an opening. The 6 months is an opening. It's a launch of a new wing, like a bird's wings. You know, it's a new wing. And so I'm really excited. And please, you know, we're going to send a lot of newsletters. You know, we usually, like, you know, you always try to be careful, not too many. People get overloaded and stuff like that. You know what? We got a lot of stuff we're going to be doing. So we're going to be overloaded. I'm telling you right now, like, I don't mean like 3 a day, but maybe 2 a week or 3 a week or something like that. Because there's a lot that we got to share. And each one, you know, it's coming, man. There's so many programs I can't even tell you. And so please follow us and like look at them and you know, click on them and stuff. Check them out because there's a lot to share. And I'll see you all soon. I'm gonna go to the after party.
Yeah, can I take a second to screen share this this world that that Zubin has invited us to? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, I'll go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead with that. This will just take a second. Okay, so this is what you see. You have to go through a couple of steps to, I haven't even made it all the way in yet. Oh dear. Okay, you have to walk through, you have to sort of show that you can do this. It's this little little gamification here. We'll be little avatars of ourselves. And there we are. Okay. So this world will look familiar to a lot of you. I'm sorry, I'm trying to move my window here. Yeah, so here's a fire pit. And here's a house. Holler if this starts to look familiar as a place. I'm not a gamer, you guys. Okay, here we go. There is a map.
Jesus.
Let's get the map up here. But, let's see here. Zubin, where are you? Okay, there's a map. Okay, so so you can see the little world that we're in here. I'm going to stop my screen share now because you've seen enough. You want to see the rest of it? You're just going to have to go yourself.
Great. Thank you so much.
A tiny technical thing, and I think this just when you
Yeah.
close Zoom, you're gonna have to probably let Chrome like get your camera. And
Okay.
then there's a little tutorial for those of you who haven't done it, and it's very quick. And then yeah, I'm gonna hop off and go there now. So lovely to see you. Maybe I'll see some of you in a few minutes.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
See you all
Thank
soon.
you, everybody. Watch your mailboxes. There's so much coming right.